Not every love story needs paparazzi or a scandal headline. Some happen in secret DMs, quiet kitchens, or wedding chapels no one live-streamed. Tonight on Silent Fame, we're spilling the tea on 10 gay celebrity couples who didn't need flashbulbs to prove forever. Some lasted, some crashed beautifully, but all rewrote what queer love looks like when nobody's watching. Grab your popcorn. This romance gets real, quiet, and dangerously sweet. The couple Hollywood couldn't figure out because they refused to play by the rules. In a town where every latte comes with a hashtag and every romance needs a red carpet debut, these two decided, nah, we're good. Michael, the razor-sharp charmer from Ugly Betty, met Ryan back in 2008. He was witty, magnetic, the kind of guy who could monologue his way through brunch. Ryan, on the other hand, was an indie darling. Writer, actor, theater nerd with eyes that said, "I've read more Tennessee Williams than you ever will." When they collided, sparks didn't fly. They debated, collaborated, and eventually realized they'd stumbled into something that didn't need special effects. They became that couple who could finish each other's punchlines and rewrite each other's scripts. Partners in art, life, and low-budget filmmaking, they built their empire not on gossip columns but on good dialogue and bad takeout. Then came the big plot twist. When same-sex marriage finally became legal, fans waited for the big proposal. The Instagram engagement ring, the People magazine exclusive, the doves, the hashtags. Instead, Michael looked straight into a reporter's mic and said, "We're not getting married." Hollywood gasped, Twitter imploded, publicists fainted, but Michael and Ryan just kept sipping their coffee. Their reason? They didn't want to rush into a tradition that had shut them out for so long. Michael once said, "We don't need a ceremony to prove our love. We've been doing the work every day." That's not rebellion. It's realism with killer comic timing. While the industry was busy selling fairy tales, they were making art. Together they wrote plays, produced indie films, mentored queer youth, and built a home full of books, dogs, and probably way too many coffee mugs from opening nights. Their arguments are said to last 3 acts, but always end with applause. 15 years later, still no wedding bells, just laughter, scripts, and love scenes that don't need cameras. Some people call that unconventional. Others call it suspicious. But maybe it's genius. In a culture obsessed with making it official, Michael and Ryan made it authentic. So were they radicals or romantics? Maybe both. They didn't need tuxedos, vows, or trending hashtags. They already had the only thing that lasts in Hollywood: commitment with a sense of humor. Because when the credits roll and the champagne's flat, the real love story isn't the one with the ring. It's the one that keeps showing up for rehearsal every single day. Sean Hayes and Scott Icenogle, the love story hiding in plain sight right behind a laugh track. Everyone knew Sean as Jack from Will and Grace. Loud, fabulous, the human glitter bomb who made America giggle its way into queer acceptance. But what no one knew was that while Jack was dancing across living rooms, Sean was quietly building a love story that didn't need a punchline. At the height of his fame, Sean wasn't out publicly. The irony? He was playing TV's most iconic gay man while dodging the same label in real life. Hollywood in the early 2000s wasn't exactly a rainbow parade. Being openly gay could cost you your leading roles, your fans, and maybe your sanity. So while Jack was cracking jokes, Sean was playing defense. And somewhere between all those punchy one-liners and polite denials, he met Scott Icenogle. Scott wasn't a celebrity. No red carpet, no entourage, no designer drama. He was a music producer, the kind of guy who could remix your heartbreak and still make it sound like a party. They met behind the scenes, bonded over late-night playlists and mutual sarcasm, and fell in love quietly, almost accidentally. While the tabloids chased who's dating who, Sean and Scott were too busy arguing over Spotify cues and stealing each other's hoodies. For years, nobody knew. No paparazzi, no couple name, no matching tuxes on magazine covers. Just two men building a life filled with music, laughter, and the occasional dance break in the kitchen. It wasn't until 2010, after 15 years of fame, that Sean casually came out. No grand interview, no confetti, just a quiet truth dropped mid-conversation like, "Oh, by the way, I'm gay." Classic Sean. 4 years later, he and Scott tied the knot. The ceremony? Private. The guest list? Tight. The love? Very, very public. At least to anyone who ever saw them together. Fans later learned about it and collectively went, "Wait, what? Since when?" And Sean just smiled, as if to say, "Since forever, sweetie." Critics called his long silence cautious. Others called it selfish. But maybe it was strategic. Sean's journey reminded millions that coming out isn't a one-size-fits-all performance. It's personal timing, not public theater. Today, Sean and Scott are still together, still laughing, still producing music and memories. They didn't need a media circus to prove anything. Because the real joke's on Hollywood. Turns out, the loudest character on TV had the quietest, most genuine love story of them all. B.D. Wong and Richert Schnorr. The love story Hollywood never saw coming because, well, they didn't invite Hollywood. You know B.D. Wong, the smooth, sharp, unshakably calm guy from Jurassic Park, Law & Order SVU, and Mr. Robot. On screen, he's been everything. Scientist, villain, priest, genius. Off screen, for years he was the one thing he'd never played, himself. See, BD came up in an era when being gay, Asian, and visible in Hollywood was like walking into a casting call with a neon "Do Not Hire" sign. So he kept his private life very private. No red carpets, no gossip column sources, not even a scandalous brunch sighting. People whispered, speculated, guessed, and BD just kept acting circles around everyone. Then came Richert Schnorr, a creative director with bookworm glasses, soft humor, and zero interest in fame. No reality show vibes, no influencer energy, just a man who knew how to match fonts and feelings. They met online, no studio lighting, no PR team, and slowly built something real. 8 years of quiet dating, handwritten vows, and an Instagram feed allergic to oversharing. In 2018, while the rest of Hollywood was staging drone-shot weddings in Tuscany, BD and Richert got married in a small New York ceremony. No press, no paparazzi, just love, vows, and maybe a few confused pigeons. It was so low-key, people didn't even realize it happened until months later. Some critics complained, "Why so secretive? Why not louder, prouder?" But here's the thing. BD never needed volume to validate truth. He once said being gay, Asian, and successful already feels like defiance. His love wasn't a headline, it was a home. Richert didn't care about premieres or photo ops. He cared about peace, humor, and letting BD breathe. Together, they proved that sometimes the quietest couples are the ones shaking the system the hardest. Because while the world was busy shouting for attention, BD and Richert were out here whispering something radical. That real love doesn't need permission, applause, or a hashtag. Just two people, one promise, and a Wi-Fi connection strong enough to last a lifetime. Victor Garber and Rainer Andreesen, the Hollywood love story that refused to audition for attention. You've seen Victor everywhere. The shipbuilder in Titanic, the dad in Alias, the classy diplomat in Argo. He's been nominated, celebrated, imitated, but one thing he wasn't for decades? Out. Not because he was ashamed, but because back then, being openly gay in Hollywood wasn't brave. It was career suicide. While everyone else was chasing the spotlight, Victor was mastering the art of quiet survival. No rainbow confetti, No headline interviews, just pure professionalism and a calm, no-comment energy that could melt even the nosiest reporter. Behind that composure, though, there was Rainer Andreesen, a Canadian model, painter, and all-around art world heartthrob with cheekbones sharp enough to cut glass. They met in the early 2000s, two men fluent in the same language of class and calm. No paparazzi meet cute, no champagne scandal, just a gallery opening, a conversation, and suddenly a connection that stuck. While Hollywood screamed for attention, they whispered their own story into existence. For nearly 20 years, Victor and Rainer lived a life that was somehow both private and perfectly visible. Walks in Central Park, art shows, quiet dinners, the kind of couple who made you think, oh, so that's what adult love looks like. Then, in 2015, they got married. No magazine deal, no exclusive photo shoot, just a simple "we did it." And honestly, it was iconic. Some fans later asked, why didn't he come out sooner? Why didn't he use his fame to be louder? But here's the twist. Not everyone survives the same battles in the same way. For Victor, the rebellion wasn't in the announcement, it was in the endurance. He showed that queer love can grow old, stay classy, and thrive without spectacle. Rainer kept painting, Victor kept acting, and together they built a partnership built on respect, humor, and really good lighting. No drama, no breakups, no chaos, just longevity. In an industry addicted to scandal, that's revolutionary. So was their love story too quiet? Maybe. But when silence lasts 2 decades and still looks that good, who needs noise? Chris Colfer and Will Sherrod, the love story that proved you don't need a spotlight to sparkle. Everyone remembers Chris as Kurt Hummel from Glee, the bow-tied, sharp-tongued theater kid who turned high school pain into primetime pride. He sang, he slayed, and he became the face of young queer courage. But while millions were cheering for Kurt, Chris was living a very different kind of story, one that didn't come with show tunes or press junkets. Enter Will Sherrod, a film producer with movie star dimples and the soul of an indie poet. No fame, no flashing lights, just quiet confidence and a love for the behind the scenes. They met in 2013 when Glee was at its peak and Chris's face was basically a national treasure. Fans were obsessed. They wanted the romance, the photos, the Instagram lives, the full Hollywood treatment. But Chris gave them nothing. Zero. No red carpet kisses, no couple reveal, not even a blurry paparazzi pic worth overanalyzing on Reddit. The internet lost its collective mind. Was he hiding? Was he ashamed? Was Will real or a PR cover-up? Meanwhile, Chris and Will were out there doing the wildest thing imaginable in Hollywood, just living. Traveling together, writing, producing, celebrating birthdays without hashtags or sponsorship deals. They weren't dodging fame. They were ignoring it. Every now and then, an eagle-eyed fan would spot them at an event. Maybe a smile, a whisper, a hand resting on a shoulder. And that was it. Proof of life, but never performance. And while social media speculated on breakups, proposals, or who made breakfast that morning, Chris just kept being unapologetically private. A decade later, they're still together. No wedding announcements, no reality show, just two guys who mastered the art of quiet forever. Some fans still demand visibility. You owe us transparency. But maybe they don't owe anyone anything. Because here's the punchline. The kid who once taught America to love itself out loud grew up to show that love doesn't always need volume. Sometimes the strongest relationships are the ones that don't trend. They just endure. Chris and Will turned privacy into performance art. And honestly, in a world that overshares everything, that's the boldest move of all. John Barrowman and Scott Gill, the couple that proved love doesn't need a spotlight to shine brighter than any stage light. Before rainbow crosswalks and billion-dollar pride merch, these two were already out there, holding hands, laughing, and living loudly in their own quiet way. Picture it, London, 1993. John Barrowman, the theater heartthrob with the voice, the charm, and enough charisma to light up the West End, had just finished a performance. Backstage stood Scott Gill, an architect with kind eyes, steady energy, and absolutely no interest in fame. One look, one conversation, and boom, the opening act of a love story that would outlast most TV shows and at least 3 boy bands. They didn't rush into the Hollywood routine. No red carpet debut, no exclusive couple feature, no PR hand-holding at award shows. They simply started living together, traveling, showing up side by side, and somehow, without trying, they became a quiet revolution. In 2006, when the UK legalized civil partnerships, they made it official. No flashbulbs, no scandal, just paperwork and peace. Then, in 2013, when same-sex marriage became legal in California, they upgraded to husband and husband, because apparently, even love stories need sequels. While others staged influencer-style photo shoots, John and Scott were posting goofy vacation selfies, sharing dog pics, or joking mid-flight. No filters, no scripts, just the genuine joy of two people who actually like each other. Their feed wasn't curated, it was cozy. Still, some critics couldn't help but ask, why aren't they more visible? Why not speak louder? But maybe the loudest thing they ever did was simply stay. For 30 years, no breakups, no cheating scandals, no drama, just consistency. In a world that rewards chaos, that's practically rebellious. John, ever the showman, kept dazzling audiences in Doctor Who and Torchwood, while Scott kept designing buildings and occasionally reminding John to charge his phone. Together, they're proof that visibility doesn't always need volume. Sometimes presence is protest enough. Because when you've been walking hand in hand for 3 decades, you don't need a headline. You are one. Billy Porter and Adam Smith, the love story that started like a Broadway musical and ended like a bittersweet ballad. Billy, the man who can outdress royalty and outsing thunder, wasn't exactly known for subtle entrances. Red carpets, he is the carpet. But when it came to love, the spotlight dimmed, and what unfolded was real, raw, and refreshingly human. It all began in 2009 in a place far from flashing cameras, an eyewear store. Billy was browsing frames, Adam was working behind the counter, probably unaware he was about to sell glasses to his future husband. They dated briefly, but life, or maybe Broadway's crazy schedule, had other plans. The romance fizzled out faster than an opening night champagne bottle. Years passed. Billy chased stardom, Adam built his business, Pat, and both grew into versions of themselves that were finally ready. Then, in 2015, cue the encore. They reconnected. This time, it wasn't about passion at first sight, it was about timing that finally worked. Within 2 years, Billy proposed, and 2 weeks later, they were married. 2 weeks. Somewhere, wedding planners screamed into their clipboards. And for a while, it was magic. Billy conquered the world, Tony, Grammy, Emmy, while Adam stayed grounded, steady, the man who made home feel like home. They became red carpet royalty, a black gay couple exuding confidence, couture, and pure love. Together, they didn't just attend events, they owned them. Every photo screamed power, partnership, and sequined perfection. But in 2023, the curtain fell quietly. No scandal, no betrayal, no mess, just honesty. Billy announced their separation with a simple truth. This is not easy, but it's honest. Fans gasped. How could the fairy tale end? But maybe that's the point. Even the strongest stories have final acts. Their marriage didn't collapse. It completed its run. Fame, pressure, distance, all too real. But what stayed was respect. Billy and Adam showed that love doesn't fail when it ends. It fails only when it forgets to be real. The show closed, But what an opening night it was. And somewhere in that silence, after the applause fades, their story still sings. Love isn't a costume. It's courage. Ben Platt and Noah Galvin. The Broadway love story so meta it could have been a musical. Seriously, if you pitched it to Netflix, they'd call it unrealistic. Two gay actors, both playing the same role, both heartbreakingly talented, and both somehow falling for each other off stage? Come on, that's fan fiction come to life. Ben was the golden boy of Broadway, the original Evan Hansen. He sang his heart out 8 shows a week, cried perfectly on cue, and collected trophies like other people collect mugs. Then came Noah, equally sharp, equally charming, and the guy who stepped into Ben's role when he left the show. The press called it passing the torch. Destiny called it a meet-cute with musical numbers. They started as friends, just friends. Late-night texts, rehearsals, mutual trauma from stage lights and emotional ballads. Then came the glances, the inside jokes, the "wait, are we doing this" moments. Before anyone could say Tony Award, they were officially a couple, though they soft-launched it, naturally, with a blurry vacation photo and a caption that meant absolutely nothing. Classic celebrity stealth mode. By 2022, the soft launch turned into a full production. Ben proposed with candles, music, tears, and enough romance to melt even the most cynical theater critic. Fans lost it. Half the internet sobbed, the other half screamed nepotism. Because of course, the world can't just let two talented queer men be in love without an opinion. Some accused Noah of riding Ben's fame. Others said Ben was lucky to find someone who could keep up. But the truth? They're both stars, and they know how to share the stage. Noah appears in Ben's music videos, Ben gushes about Noah's humor in interviews, and together, they navigate fame like two pros who know the script but aren't afraid to improvise. Their relationship isn't about competition, it's about harmony. Sure, the spotlight's bright, but they've figured out how to stand in it together without casting shadows. So yeah, call it queer nepotism, call it fate, call it Dear Evan Hansen, whatever you want. Just don't call it fake. Because if Broadway taught us anything, it's that when the chemistry's real, the curtain never really falls. Luke Evans and John Kortajarena, the couple so gorgeous they almost broke the internet just by existing. When people say they look like a movie, they're probably talking about these two. Luke, the Welsh powerhouse from Beauty and the Beast, The Hobbit, and every action franchise that needs a smolder. And John, the Spanish supermodel whose cheekbones deserve their own agent. When they got together in 2014, it wasn't just romance, it was international diplomacy for hotness. Imagine it. One's conquering Hollywood, the other's owning Paris Fashion Week. Together, they were like if James Bond dated the cover of GQ. Every time they breathed in the same city, cameras appeared. Fans lost control. Tumblr basically declared a national holiday. They were dubbed the Golden Boys, because obviously, hot and ridiculously perfect was too long for headlines. But here's the twist. While they looked like a PR dream, they played it totally chill. No red carpet declarations, no Instagram captions screaming, "So in love." Just a few artfully blurry vacation photos, some mysterious glances at Fashion Week, and enough subtle hints to keep gossip pages awake at night. Their silence became part of the allure. They never confirmed, never denied, they just existed, devastatingly good-looking and unapologetically private. Behind all the glitz, though, life wasn't a fairy tale montage. Different schedules, countries, and careers started pulling them apart. No drama, no cheating scandal, just the quiet kind of breakup that happens when two shooting stars realize they're on different orbits. Fans found out the 21st century way. They unfollowed each other on Instagram. Tragic. Digital heartbreak. Cue the global gasp. Some said it was PR. Some said it was love that burned too bright. Maybe it was both, because for a moment they were perfection, a fantasy that felt real enough to root for. Now, Luke keeps charming Hollywood in tailored suits, John keeps strutting the world's runways, and their time together remains frozen, like a glossy Vogue spread you can't stop staring at. Not every love story ends with a ring. Some end with a jawline and an unfollow. And honestly, that's still iconic. Neil Patrick Harris and David Burtka, the couple so perfect it almost feels scripted. Except it's all real. If Hollywood ever needed proof that love can outshine the spotlight, these two have been serving it for nearly 2 decades, with matching suits, twin kids, and more chemistry than a How I Met Your Mother marathon. Neil, the ultimate showman, went from Doogie Howser to the most charming troublemaker on TV. David, the Broadway heartthrob turned chef, could steal a scene or a soufflé with equal skill. When they met back in 2004, sparks didn't just fly. They practically wrote their own pilot episode. And honestly, it would have been a hit. At first, Neil wasn't even looking for love. He was too busy, too famous, too convinced he was destined for solo stardom. But then came David, and suddenly Mr. Suit Up found someone who could match his wit, his smile, and his wardrobe. They started quietly dating, holding hands at the Tony Awards before it was trendy, and making every other celebrity couple look like they were trying too hard. By 2006, the world got the headline, Neil Patrick Harris, out, proud, and thriving. But the real story wasn't the announcement. It was the relationship that followed. While other Hollywood pairs were breaking up over scheduling conflicts, Neil and David were building a family, one adorable Instagram post at a time. Their wedding in 2014 was peak romance. Italy, fireworks, Elton John performing live. Yes, that Elton John. It wasn't just a ceremony, it was a flex. They even managed to make matching tuxes look like an Olympic sport. Together, they raised twins, juggled Broadway, Netflix, and magic shows, all while being disgustingly in love. They're the kind of couple who hosts Halloween parties that could bankrupt Disney and somehow still make it look effortless. Sure, some people roll their eyes and say, no one can be that happy. But maybe they can. Because Neil and David didn't fake a fairy tale, they built one. Brick by brick, joke by joke, diaper by diaper. If love is an art, they're Picasso with a side of sass. And if perfection's a crime, well, these two are absolutely guilty, and fabulous while doing time. Matt Bomer and Simon Halls, the couple that made secrecy look sexy. Before Hollywood started hashtagging love is love, these two were already proving it. Quietly, gracefully, and with cheekbones sharp enough to slice through social norms. Matt Bomer, the impossibly polished star of White Collar and Magic Mike, looked like he'd been carved out of charm itself. He had that all-American smile, the kind that could sell anything from luxury watches to heartbreak. But for years, while the world swooned over his on-screen charisma, nobody knew about the man who'd already stolen his heart behind the scenes. Powerhouse Hollywood publicist Simon Halls. Simon wasn't just any PR genius. He was the guy who knew how to make stars shine while keeping their private lives private. So when he and Matt fell in love, they didn't announce it to the tabloids. They basically wrote the playbook for quiet power couple energy. No scandals, no leaks, just two men building a family while the world was busy guessing. They met in the early 2000s. Client meets publicist, sparks fly, headlines don't. Their chemistry was instant, but their approach was intentional. They built their relationship like they were handling top-secret Hollywood intel, securely, beautifully, and completely off the record. Then in 2011, Matt came out publicly in the most Matt Bomer way possible, with grace, humility, and zero drama, thanking Simon and their 3 sons during an award speech. Cue the collective gasp. Wait, 3 sons? Turns out, while everyone else was speculating about his love life, Matt and Simon had been raising a family like total pros. They'd quietly married in 2011, long before fans even knew they were together. And instead of a media circus, their wedding was all vows, laughter, and probably a few A-listers pretending not to cry. Over a decade later, they're still the definition of elegant domestic bliss, balancing Hollywood chaos with PTA meetings, red carpets with carpools. Matt once said, "Simon is the most amazing man I've ever known." Translation, even PR can't spin love this good. So, were they secretive or just smart? Maybe both. Because in an industry built on exposure, Matt and Simon mastered the ultimate magic trick, being wildly successful, madly in love, and completely unbothered. Lil Nas X and Ariza, the love story that broke the internet, made out on live TV, and reminded everyone that subtlety is so last season. If every other celebrity couple was playing chess, these two showed up shirtless, kissed on stage, and flipped the board. Lil Nas X, the genre-bending, rule-breaking pop star who rode Old Town Road straight into history, had already mastered the art of chaos. But in 2021, when he dropped his fiery Montero performance at the BET Awards, the real headline wasn't the outfit, the choreography, or even the pyrotechnics. It was the kiss. That legendary kiss with backup dancer Ariza that sent conservatives clutching their pearls and the internet into a total meltdown. But here's the thing. It wasn't just performance. Behind the viral moment was a real connection, one that started fittingly on set. Yai, a Colombian dancer with movie star energy and abs that could power a small city, caught Lil Nas's eye during rehearsals. What began as chemistry on stage turned into something more. Late-night texts, inside jokes, and those dangerously flirty rehearsal breaks. Soon after, fans noticed the clues, the matching outfits, the heart emojis, the lingering glances in interviews. Lil Nas wasn't exactly subtle. He teased it on social media, posted cryptic TikToks, and then, boom, dropped the "That's What I Want" music video, where he and Yai basically turned heartbreak into an Olympic sport. It was steamy, cinematic, and just unfiltered enough to make everyone hit replay. Their romance was short but scorching, the kind of love that burns bright, fast, and unapologetically loud. They laughed, traveled, danced through headlines, and didn't care who was watching. When it ended, there were no public meltdowns, just Lil Nas tweeting about self-love like the boss of emotional recovery. Still, that relationship left a mark, because in a world that still tells queer black men to tone it down, Lil Nas X went the other way. Full volume, full passion, full authenticity. And Yai? He matched the energy beat for beat. They weren't just dating. They were redefining what queer love could look like. Bold, joyful, and broadcast live. Sure, it didn't last forever, but while it did, it was electric. And honestly, some love stories don't fade. They just go viral forever. In a world where every influencer posts their breakfast, Anderson Cooper and Benjamin Maisani decided to skip the feed entirely. Anderson, the silver-haired CNN anchor known for grilling presidents and holding back tears on live TV, met Benjamin, an elegant, soft-spoken nightclub owner from France, back in the late 2000s. Their love didn't start on a red carpet. It started in low light, somewhere between a New York cocktail and a conversation that lasted until sunrise. For years, they kept things private. No joint interviews, no matching suits, no thirst traps. Just two men building a quiet life while the world kept watching Anderson on screen. When they split in 2018, they didn't unfollow each other or trade quotes in the press. They simply said, "We remain family." And they meant it. Because here's the twist. Even after breaking up, they co-parent Andreesen's 2 sons together. Benjamin moved back in to help raise the kids, proving that love doesn't have to end when romance does. It just changes shape, like good friendship or French wine. They're not dramatic, they're not performative, and they're definitely not chasing hashtags. In an age of oversharing, Andreesen and Benjamin remind us that sometimes the most radical thing you can do is stay silent, stay kind, and keep showing up at 6 a.m. with coffee and Kong. So, there you have it. 15 love stories that whispered, roared, and rewrote the rules. From secret vows to viral kisses, these couples proved queer love doesn't need permission or perfection. Just guts, glitter, and maybe good Wi-Fi. Some lasted, some didn't, but all of them mattered. Hit subscribe, drop your favorite number, and remember, not every fairy tale needs a headline. Some just need a heartbeat.